Hello again, everybody. Hey, now we're on our ninth video in this series on entrepreneurship in action, and it's all about financing. You need money for your company, right? It's got to come from somewhere. Starting a company, as I've said many times, is not free. Depending on what kind of company it is, will determine kind of how much money you're going to need, depending on what you have to do to get ready to launch and actually market and sell your products. So we're going to talk about financing. But before we do that, let's talk about Hunter.'s YouTube channel, like I always do. And look, this playlist is getting close to the end. I think we'll do one more. But come to our Hunter.YouTube channel and look at the playlist for Entrepreneurship in Action, and you'll see the whole series of 9. You'll also see 8 or 9 other playlists that cover all aspects of starting, running a company, whether you're just getting going in the first place or you've been up and running for years, and you run into some new opportunities, some not so good and some hopefully really good. But I think whether you're a brand new entrepreneur or you're a really seasoned entrepreneur, you'll find something that's useful for you. So please subscribe to our Hunter.YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube as well. You'll get notices of new videos. We do about one a day to keep the doctor away or to keep the bill collector away, maybe more appropriate for businesses. So let's get into this story and stop monkeying around with crazy jokes here. So the subject, of course, is raising money. And we're talking about financing. That's all we're going to talk about here, and what you got to go through to figure out where you're going to get it. So it starts with you have a bunch of choices to make. There's lots of ways to raise money. And some are easy and some are rather difficult and arcane. Let's start with the easy one. Guess what it is? Pay for it yourself. Use your own money. Don't get money from anybody else. You won't owe anybody any money. You won't be obligated to pay anything back or provide a return on the investment, because you're going to get it all, because you'll own the whole thing. Self-fund. Now he says, well, I don't have enough. I don't have $150,000. Well, my reaction to that is, what's your big hurry? Get a really good job, save some money. If you got a spouse, have him or her do the same. And after a year and a half, you may have saved $150,000 to start your dream business. In that year and a half or so, you can learn about the industry. You can do a lot of research. You may even work in the industry that you're going to go into yourself. Be careful of non-competes in the middle of all that, though. Don't get yourself in trouble at the end of it all that you can't go into that market because you got a non-compete that prevents you from doing that. Self-fund it. Pretty obvious, right? Okay, we're done. Unfortunately, people are in more of a hurry than that. So next choice, if that didn't suit you, is join up with 2 or 3 other people as co-founders of your company, and you each bring money to the business from your own pocketbooks. So that $150,000 can be, 25 for Joe, 50 for Sam, 50 for you, 25 for another partner, and you've got 4 people in a company came up with the money, and you could start together. Co-founder funding. These become the co-founders of the business, and they're going to have a share of the company as that they will own in addition to you. So you can offer that to them, and you'll have that may be your starting team. But be careful who you're getting. You want to get people that's going to be around a while, and you want to do such things as make all of you earn this and stay with the business, and make this perhaps the stock restricted for a period of time to be sure everybody's going to stick around. These are things your lawyer can talk to you about. Okay, you don't like that choice? Here's the next one. Bootstrap the business. Fund the business out of the profits of it. Well, how do I get started in the first place? Well, it may only cost you $15,000, $20,000 to get your company started. But if if it's a services business, it's really consulting services, any other form of services, where every single engagement is cash flow positive from the very beginning. In other words, when you engage in a service offering of some kind and you have a services contract, you ask for a certain percentage of the money up front to get you started, maybe 30%, maybe even 50%. Okay, that paid for all of the people that you need to have around and that you'll have to pay to perform this service. And then you get the rest of the money staged over the life of whatever this project is. That's bootstrapping. So you never go into a cash flow dip, because as soon as you make a deal, you've got money to pay for whatever you need to actually execute the services agreement. That's how you would bootstrap it. It's not hardly going to be possible to do this for software or hardware, things like that, where you're going to have a lot of money for manufacturing, distribution, software development at the onset, unless they're one of your co-founders. So there's lots of ways around this. The nature of the beast is going to have to be is whatever it is you're selling has to pay for the obligations that you created for yourself and when you created them. So that makes it extra hard. Bootstrapping is not for everybody. Okay, what's the next one? You know the term friends and family and fools? I call it associates, to be a little bit more calm about it. But you would put together your proposal and ask for money from people you know that have the net worth to take some of their money and loan it to you. Notice I didn't say equity. They're not buying shares of your company. You're going to borrow the money from them because they know you, you know them, you trust each other. So the whole process of gaining $150,000 for maybe a group of 2, 3, 4 people could be quite easy if you're reasonably well connected to high net worth individuals. But you borrow the money, you offer them a handsome interest rate because they're taking a risk, and you're going to personally guarantee it. You will pay them back no matter what happens. You can make a deal like that with a straight face. That's the way to execute a friends and family kind of financing. I don't think you want them to take the risk on their money and losing it all, because Thanksgiving dinner is going to be kind of tough to have them over to the house if you've lost a bunch of money for them. So borrow it, pay it back. The beauty of this is that we're talking about people that you know well and that they know you. There's trust already built. So when you give them your word that you'll pay them back, you will do this, and they know you'll do it. Okay, do I have any friends like that? Let's go on let's go to a bank. Oh my goodness. Most banks don't do startup loans. So there's a big hit. But there are some certain regional banks and community development banks called CDFIs sometimes do. So you can present them a plan for your business. And like any bank, they're going to want to know how they're going to get their money back. And they're going to pay a healthy interest rate. But they're going to want to see that this business is viable, will be viable. But it's kind of a long shot that you're going to get a bank to loan you money for a startup. You can consider financing your business once it's up and running, and you could show that you're profitable and cash flow positive. So you have the wherewithal to pay back a loan. You'll have a much better chance of getting a bank loan, particularly one that's backed by the SBA. So that's how bank loans fit in. Okay, now let's go to the really killer. Equity financing. This is where people of high net worth or certain organizations, like angel groups, for example, private equity groups, or another example, will buy shares of your company. They will provide your $150,000, probably more, because that's kind of low for them. But they're going to provide the money for a certain percentage of your company. Because why? Because they believe they're going to get three, four, five-fold their money back in 5 to 7 years, maybe more. That's what they're looking for, a big hit. This is expensive money. It's like credit card interest rates in effect. It's not interest rate kind of thing. They're buying shares, but they're expecting a return on their investments in the 17% compounded annually range. So that's a long trek, and I'm going to take you through in the later part of this presentation how you would orchestrate approaching angel investors, for example. The next one is, well, you don't want to meet with a bunch of angels, but I don't mind crowdfunding. We can go out to the crowd and ask for money from them, and that could be done by a loan. It could be paid back by a percentage of your revenue. It's called revenue share, a form of paying back. There are plenty of crowdfunding organizations around, but between you, me, and the lamppost, this is a lot of work too, to really put together the website, the marketing campaign, and all the preparation work you've got to do to seed the round of financing. So this could be done as a loan. It could be done also as equity. Both are long roads to hoe. And chances are you don't know how to do it, but there are people that do, and you're going to have to pay them a lot of money to help you do it. So it's going to cost you a lot of money to go raise a lot of money. And if you didn't have the money to start with, crowdfunding may not be the place to go for you. The final one I think of is that certain businesses qualify for government grants and state grants and city grants for community development. So I'm thinking of the SBIR grants from government agencies, the STTR grants right along with them, that you apply for. And you can get a substantial amount of money, but it's usually $100,000, $200,000 grant, not a loan, grant. This money comes to you and you just use it. You got a lot of reporting to do. It's going to be a little pain in the you-know-what to deal with it, but it could really get you started down the road of commercialization. There's two phases of the SBIR grants. The first one is the exploratory phase, and the second one is commercialization. You can get well in excess of $1 million this way. It takes a lot of work to get it. And it takes an artist to write these grants. It's an art form to say the right words in the right places and answering the questions that you're going to be asked the right way. So you're going to need some help on this as well. So going after a grant is not free either, because you're going to have to probably pay somebody to help you do this and execute this process correctly. So there you go. There's your choices. Aren't they wonderful? And I bet you're just leaping out of your chair saying, I'm going after my associates for a lot of money right now. Well, hold on a minute. I got more to tell you. So once you've picked one or more of these choices, it's usually one, you got to get yourself prepared for it. You just don't go show up to Uncle Jim's house and say, I'd like to borrow $150,000 from him. You want to tell him a story, I think, for sure. So you do a business plan, just like good old business plans are. 15 pages, a summary of 2 or 3 that explains to Uncle Jim or anyone else in this list of choices what this business is about. And you explain it in 10 to 15 minutes. And there's a forecast, a financial forecast that goes along with that business plan that says, here's how we're going to make money, and here's how we're going to be able to pay you back, or here's how we're going to give you a really great return on your investment. When you go there, you're prepared for whatever they want to know about your company. It's called a disclosure notebook. It's a Google Drive full of documents that contain the documents that formed your company, all your contracts, and anything about your company that they're going to want to know. Because anyone from this list is going to do some form of due diligence on your business and may ask for all sorts of different documents. But as you do this and they start asking you questions, you need to have answers. So you need to practice your answers. Have answers. You may have issues in your company. You may have legal issues, financial issues. You may have pending lawsuits. Whatever you've got to disclose it, be honest about it, and have answers on what you're doing about it. So be also prepared for a series of questions that they might ask about the business. I've got a list of possible questions that these kinds of people ask, and I'd be glad to give it to you. If you just email me or contact me at b100@entredat.org, I'd be glad to send you a list of typical questions that you're going to get asked. So you got yourself prepared. You got your plan. Now we're going to put together a presentation, or story, in other words, that explains why they should be interested. You're going to practice it before you spring it on anybody. You're going to be able to answer questions just like you were about your disclosure notebook, but you're going to answer business questions now. And this presentation is kind of a piece of art almost. It's 12, 13, 14 PowerPoint slides long, and it is got to be concise, succinct, to the point, and portray the high points about what's great about your business. The flow of this presentation goes along the lines of starting with the need we fulfill is, and whatever that need is, in one slide you explain why this need is so compelling and why it has to be addressed. And the second thing you're going to talk about is, what are you offering that fulfills that need? What's your solution? Piece of software, hardware, services, whatever it is. In these two first slides, you want to get across need and fulfillment in such a way that you have grabbed the interests of your audience, whether it's a bank, whether it's a private individual, whether it's equity investors, certainly in your website when you do crowdfunding. But whatever the case may be, these first two pieces of information make you or break you. You've got to do this well. I hardly ever see it done well, unfortunately. Me and my partner, Rich, run an angel group. We've done this since 2004. We've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of investor presentations, and very few are done in such a way that the first couple of slides grabs us, gets us clear on what it is that this business is doing in terms of a need it's addressing and what it has to address it. I'll tell you what, if you succeed at this and you got your audience on the edge of their chair listening, and they're not sitting back looking at their cell phone, yawning, you've got them. And then you proceed to talk about some salient features of your products and services. You talk about the market that you're going to go in. It's big and it's growing, and we're in a particular segment of it. We can explain exactly what it is, how big it is, and then we're going to talk about all the competitors that we're going to be up against and how we're superior to them. And then we talk about, well, how are we going to reach this market with our marketing programs? Once we reach them, how are we going to sell what we've got? So you talk about your sales plan and your sales forecast. Then you talk about the team of people that you're gathering to run this company and how great they are, how relevant they are to the market that you're going to be in, and the relevant experience they have, and what roles they're going to play in the company, how well they already work together because they know each other. Those kinds of things that say, ooh, we've got a dynamite team here. And they've done this kind of thing before. They're seasoned entrepreneurs, investors, bankers, anybody out there in the crowd, your associates, all want to hear things like that and have confidence. We got the right people running this company. Then you show your elaborate financial forecast, maybe out for 3 years, maybe 5, but where you're going to majors this year, the first year. How are we going to make the first year's revenue? What's it going to look like? And then you extrapolate forward from there on percentage growth rates, stuff like that, because you don't know what's going to happen 18 months from now. Your business may change materially. But if you get off on the right foot and make your first year and you can explain how you're going to do that, you are in good shape. And then the final is, and we want to raise the $150,000, and we would enjoy having you as part of our team and providing it money, and whatever form this is going to take. You say something relevant about the the use of funds, how you're going to use the money, and how you're going to pay it back, or how you're going to give a return to investors. If you get a story like that, that's the kind of presentation I'm talking to. 12 slides, 20 minutes, and another 40 for questions because you got them so interested they won't let you go. That's what you want to have happen. And when that does happen, they're going to say, we like this. They're not writing checks right now. You don't present them the promissory note that for the $150,000 or anything like that just yet, because they have further questions. You want them to say, I want to study this some more. I have questions. I'd like to, we or I would like to go through them with you at another time. You're starting what amounts to be a due diligence process. With some, the more sophisticated people that you're going to go after may give you actually a checklist, a due diligence checklist. Okay, here's all we want to know about your company. Provide these documents. And it's a list this long with check marks on the documents they want to see. And if you've done your disclosure notebook, you got them already. You're going to look really smart. You say, yes, sir, when would you like it? Or here's the URL to my Google Drive. All you need is a password. That's how your disclosure notebook helps you in this due diligence process and answering the requirements that they're going to have for a checklist of documents. So friends and family, on the other hand, may not ask for much of anything. Banks are going to want to know certain things, particularly how in heck are we going to get our money back at the interest rate we want. So they're going to have questions, along those lines. Your friends and family financiers are going to ask similar questions about how they're going to get their money back and at the interest rate you describe to them. So that's due diligence. Once they're satisfied they got the information they need, then a negotiation starts. And it sometimes starts with something called a term sheet. In the equity financing world, it is called a term sheet. It says, we'd like to buy $150,000 worth of your stock. Here are all the terms that we require at pre-money value of your company of such and such, and all sorts of other restrictions on what you can and cannot do with our money, and all sorts of things. It's about 2 or 3 pages long. Once you've got the term sheet, a negotiation starts. If it's a bank, you say, well, we can loan you $150,000. Here's the interest rate and the terms of payment. Same for the CDFI banks. Friends and family are going to say, well, let's figure out how I can get my money back. I know you're not going to pay me the first year, but I'd like to get principal and interest starting a year from now. And this first year, interest only. You get a feel for what I'm talking about. Any one of these forms of financing, the choices we talked about at the beginning of this video, are going to go into a period of negotiation, sometimes initiated by the lender or the provider of equity, sometimes by you, depending upon what kind of financing it is. Okay, you get through that process, you get your money. Now what do you do? Now you've signed a term sheet, you've signed a stock purchase agreement, or you've signed a loan agreement. What do? You deploy the money. Guess how you deploy it? As you said you would. This is not a time to change your mind and say, well, I changed my mind, I'm going to spend it on capital equipment instead. If that was for development or for manufacturing or marketing and sales to launch your business, that's what you use it for. Do not try to hoodwink investors, even Uncle Jim. Don't do that to him or anyone else. So consider that what you've done is you've made a commitment to your investor or the provider of a loan as to what you're going to do with the money. Follow through. And on a reasonably frequent basis, give them a status of the progress that you've made. They all of these financing sources know the business changes. Well, inform them of what these changes are. Tell them what's going on. They're your partners. Treat them that way. Don't try to hide anything. Don't take the money and run, and don't ever say anything to them. Be a good partner to your investors. Tell you what, the grant authorities are going to demand that in the agreement you're going to make with them. You will have some strict reporting if you go for an SBIR grant, for example. Most other grants are about the same. So you're going to deploy the funds appropriately and in full disclosure to your investors. Then you're in for a long ride, 2, 3, 5 years, where you've used their money. Perhaps you've raised additional money along the way. What's really important for you is to have really positive working relationships with all of the people and entities that have loaned you money or bought shares in your business or provided you money as grants. Consider them valued, trusted partners. Treat them that way. Follow through on your commitments that you make to them. Keep the reporting going. Keep your updates going. Update them every couple of months, 2 to 3. That's pretty reasonable. Let them know what's going on. But underneath the covers, the manner in which you're relating to these people is one of trust, built on trust. And over years of working with these people that have provided you the financing of your business, you'll have valued partnerships for the rest of your life. So think of it that way. These are people that are going to be with me for a long time, and I want it that way. So that was financing. Wasn't that fun? But look, you make a focused selection of your financing sources. You prepare thoroughly, practice, complete your discovery, successfully negotiate. If you need help in negotiating, get it. Use your funds wisely, as you said you would, and follow through on these commitments. You're going to be a great partner if you handle financing this way. And as you handle financing the right way, you're going to have a really great day and probably many of them.